Welcome to Speaking Cinema, series movie Jibber Jabber movie podcast, coming to you live from our gaudy and haughty tower in upstate Hollywood, California.
Upstate's really the only thing you ever hear about. That's only in New York.
Upstate New York?
Upstate.
Well, upstate California is Northern California.
That's true. So,
I guess upstate California would be like Humboldt.
yeah, totally.
I'm gonna start saying that. I'm from, yeah, we're gonna go to upstate California.
Let's get that going over here.
They want that legalization of weed badly. Follow us on social media at Speaking Cinema. Let's do a jibber jabber about movies we see before and after we see them every single Monday. Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud. That's where you get them. I am your host, wealthy and prosper socialite, Mr. Jibber Jabber. With me today, as always, my free-spirited cousin who is way cooler than my fiance, Kevin.
Could that be me? Yeah, it probably is.
I'm gonna say this is the best introduction we've ever done. The fact that
I'm so free spirit, I don't even have socks on right now.
the fact that I'm wealthy and socialite, Mr. Jibber Jabber, which is so perfect to that time that and then the my free spirited cousin who's cooler than my fiance. That's just hilarious.
There we go. I try.
So maybe I ruined it by commenting on how great it was, but you know what? It's my podcast. It's your podcast. We're great.
See how it works in the edit.
No way. I'm not even gonna edit this episode. I'm just gonna put it up raw. No music, nothing. Another heaping of a helping of the director buffet this week. We're not doing it again. Here we go. We're looking at the works of New York's only son, Martin Scorsese.
Screw you, Woody Allen. It's Martin Scorsese.
Hey, listen, these are the facts.
There we go.
Sorry.
It's true.
Sorry.
Who's made more great movies? The skis.
Fun fact, Martin Scorsese fears flying and has asthma. That's a fun fact for us. Probably not that fun for him.
No, he's kind of neurotic.
Is he?
Watch old interviews on Conan of him, and he is kind of he talks about, I don't go outside. Yeah, I only go out when I have to. I tend to stay home a lot.
Do you think he's acting it up, or do you think it's just him?
I think it's just him. He talks about I remember way back in the day, there's a really good commercial he did for American Express that he stars in. And I
remember this.
He gets photos from like a Rite Aid or whatever. And he's like, oh, these shots are terrible. Look, it's blurry. We got the wrong length on here. And he's like, it's like his nephew's birthday party that he shot, you know. And he calls up, he's like, we got to do reshoots. We got to do it all again. And then he buys a bunch of film with his Amex card. And he says that that's pretty close to what he's actually like.
That crazy guy.
He's a funny dude, Marty.
This week, in a world of tradition, in an age of innocence, they dared to break the rules. 1993's Age of Innocence. Crazy that the tagline contains the title of the movie.
It does.
That
totally, in the right context, that could be like a Faster Pussycat Kill Kill tagline, In an age of rules, in an age of innocence, they broke them all.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's an interesting observation.
There's a total Russ Meyer movie with that headline, too.
I hope this is a Russ Meyer movie. Starring Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer, Winona Ryder, and Geraldine Chaplin, daughter of Charlie Chaplin.
Yes. Still acting to this day. I looked her up on IMDb. She's going to be in Jurassic World 2. Good for her. She was born right here in Santa Monica.
Ah. Screenplay by Jay Cox and Martin Scorsese, based on the novel by Edith Warren, produced and distributed by Columbia Pictures. He does jump around from studio to studio.
Oh, sure. Whoever will take him. So, hey, The Irishman's coming out on Netflix next year. So
that little studio. If you're not familiar, in 1870s high society New York, a lawyer becomes infatuated with a free-spirited woman, even though he's engaged to her cousin. Scandalous behavior ensues.
Yes. Very much ensues.
Indeed.
There's never been a movie about, she's kind of attractive, but I'm married already.
You can make a short. That might make an interesting short.
The end. And everything turned out fine and nothing bad happened.
I went to a strip club and it's pretty interesting. All right, honey, I'm gonna go to bed. Unless you want to eat, I'm down. I'm down to go out and eat. I'm down for whatever, really.
Credits. Ladies and gentlemen, the world's worst movie.
That's like one of those Instagram shorts people make. You know.
Yeah. No plot structure in those.
A little bit about author Edith Warren, born in New York, died in France. She is the first woman ever to win the Pulitzer Prize. She won for Age of Innocence, the movie that we're doing.
Yes.
But it was the book that she wrote. Pay attention. She's buried at Versailles. Choice quote. Quote, if we only stopped trying so hard to be happy, we'd have a pretty good time. Didn't publish her first novel till age of 40. Don't give up on those dreams, people. Everyone's got a story in them. Look at the guy who played Hawkeye.
There you go.
Overnight sensation, 20 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
Scorsese calls this his, quote, most violent film. We will revisit this because I don't know a goddamn thing about this movie. It doesn't seem to be a shoot-'em-up gangster kind of picture.
I don't think anybody gets fish hooked in this movie.
Also, this movie is rated PG, which the only other movie that he has done that's rated PG was 2011's Hugo. So, what does it mean, Kev? We're going to revisit this question in the second half. Scorsese is a huge fan of Hammer horror movies. Good on you. And cast Michael Gough because he admired his work.
So yeah, Michael Gough. I believe it's
Gough, huh?
Yeah.
I used to know a guy.
I've heard it say both ways in interviews.
I know a guy who, a kid I grew up with was named Gough and spelled this way. So.
Well, there you go.
I can't speak to it though. He played Al. We might know him from Alfred and Batman. So the first 4 Batman movies, the ones that had the nipples and the bad plots.
Yes, and the Bat credit card. Bat credit. Don't leave the cave without it.
Also, hot take: those movies fell apart from the very first one.
Yeah,
and that second one
Batman Returns is good.
It's ridiculous.
But
Penguins.
it's a good ridiculous.
Penguins have rockets. It's ridiculous.
They're mind controlled. They're mind controlled penguins.
I'm just saying, people said the third one was when that movie fell off the rails. It was always off the rails. You only noticed it by then.
I really don't like that first Tim Burton one. It's not very good. And people have rose-colored glasses for it. I'm taking them off.
I'm with you. Rose-colored glasses means you can't see red flags. You said that.
Yes, I did.
And probably someone else said it, but I'm giving you the credit.
You know what? I'll take it.
Please. As of this recording, Age of Innocence available on DVD, but only on Blu-ray in Region 2 countries.
Yeah.
Bizarre, Columbia. Bizarre. Not streaming anywhere currently. Kev, have you watched this movie and have you seen it? Do you own it? You're a Scorsese fan. Talk.
It's going to shock you. I have not seen this movie.
It does not shock me.
No.
It does not shock me.
Oh.
This is not, it's not like Regency, it's not like a Regency movie, but it's like, it seems, I don't know anything about it, but it seems to be kind of like a Regency movie, like a Pride and Prejudice.
Sure.
Or a Pride and Prejudice to Zombies. So,
hopefully not.
Ooh. So, I've not seen it either. I really don't know shit about this movie. I realized that when you sent me this and I was like, I read the synopsis and I was like, what the fuck? So, it'll be interesting. First Scorsese movie that doesn't involve gangsters or gritty urban areas.
More posh urban areas.
We talked about this in the beginning. That he's known for gangster movies, but he hasn't made that many gangster movies. I think that's because his gangster movies are very memorable.
Yes, and some of his best work.
Right, and it does not bode well for this movie that no one really knows anything about it or talks about it, and it's not available in HD in America.
Sure.
It's not bode well for the companies.
But
then again, it is Columbia. A buzzing.
Hey.
So what do you want to see from old Marty?
This is our first one. I've always championed that he does branch out a lot. I think we front-loaded this season with some of his more memorable stuff. Mm-hmm. It's time to branch away. Let's see what else he's got. Let's see him tackle a Pride and Prejudice type story. I want to see what he's got, you know. Is he an old softy at heart? Is he secretly like a bookish 12-year-old girl? Let's find out.
The greatest form of marketing for a movie is the title.
Yes.
And with a title like Age of Innocence, I expect this to be a steamy, erotic kind of a thing. So that's my assumption about it.
It's only PG, though.
Listen.
And you have stated that you don't like his sexy times.
I don't like his sexy times.
So maybe you don't want that. Though.
So, but I do want sexy times to be good. So that's my expectation. Because where else could this go? What else could this be about?
You want a bodice ripper. That's what you want.
How dare you? How dare you accurately say that? So I don't know, man. I guess we're just going to have to see how it goes.
I'm going in blind. I've only seen like 1 or 2 shots from this movie. I haven't even watched a trailer for it.
Oh, fuck.
So,
we don't know goddamn thing.
I've seen shots of people spinning into like a waltz type.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, you know what? Like, we're keeping this introduction pretty short, but it's because we don't really know anything about this movie, which is not usually our MO. Usually one of us is more familiar with it, but let's get right into it.
Dig in. Let's go into that stormy horizon.
Here we go. Kev, we're back.
We're back.
Took me, this is gonna be, every one of these goddamn movies took me two fucking, Emily, I was like,
This one's only 2 hours 17 minutes.
I was like, how long is this movie? You know what she said? What do you think?
See, I thought it was like
she's getting a little bit of that Joe Pesci vibe. I don't know if I like
what
it or
do
not.
you think? Hey, you fucking book.
You motherfucker.
I hope Emily starts talking like Joe Pesci.
I hope I do too.
Little leg! Little wing or leg! What do you want? So how'd you watch it?
Oh, I watched it on DVD because, as we stated, there was no Blu-ray.
As did I.
Library, and
I got mine from Netflix. Red envelope.
definitely took 2 days to watch.
Me as well. Took a while.
So,
But,
Kev?
I was distracted the first time I watched it. I was working on my computer and put more RAM in my computer. So
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
It's running good now. 16 gigs.
Do you have a desktop or
Yeah,
laptop?
desktop. I like my desktop.
16 gigs.
Yeah. It cooks now.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
What do you think about this movie? You're a Scorsese fanboy. I don't know if you identified that selfly. I put that identification onto you.
I will. I think I said it in the first episode. I follow his work. This is one he's done so many movies that slipped through the cracks. I just haven't seen it yet. Was interested in it. Kind of came out a little meh. I didn't think much of it. I felt like he wasn't. I felt like his heart wasn't in this one. He really wasn't giving it his all.
Here's. I think. I don't know if that's true or not.
But let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. I think what it is the movie is extremely dry.
Absolutely.
This movie is.
Ooh, boy.
This movie is a baked chicken with no sauce
with red wine poured on top of it.
maybe not even that. Maybe red wine on the side. 'Cause it is just cooked through and through and through. Will say there are some technical things about this movie I really liked.
Absolutely.
And we'll get into that. But it's really long.
Yes.
And it bears repeating. Really dry.
Yes.
Like my mouth is fucking dry talking about it. There's just nothing to connect to. And I like movies about the 1%ers hanging out, finding love, figuring out what they gotta do. Your Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, your North and Souths, your Sense and Sensibilities. You know, Emily introduced me to these movies. I do enjoy them. Those are more, this is from a different era. This one's a little bit more modern than those. But same kind of shit. But it's just like, the character, Daniel Day-Lewis acting is fantastic.
Yes. And in a completely different role than what he is in Gangs of New York. You know?
Absolutely.
And again,
knows.
When a great director and a great actor get together, they can do great things no matter what setting they're in.
Also, I would just wish. I don't think the timelines really work out because Gangs of New York is 1850s or maybe even before that, and this movie is 1870s. But I just wish Bill could meet this character.
You dandy fop.
Sir, I don't know why you would come into my house and speak to me this way. I'll bid you adieu. Yeah, it's just a movie. There's some good things about it. But as a whole, it was really hard to keep the interest, and there's just no way I would have finished this movie if we were doing the podcast.
Sure.
Because it was just insanely boring at times. And some of that is, sorry, not to cut you off, but I do think that some of that is by design.
Sure.
I think you're trying to show that their lives are boring by making them boring by having repetitious things. You always see the food. It comes out in these courses. It's always like these fades through the food. They're always smoking cigars afterwards. You see they're always going to the opera. But the problem is that this has always been the problem.
And they're always going to the same opera.
Right.
It's like, oh, this performance is much more exquisite than when I saw it in London a year ago. It's like, this is the same thing?
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is the only opera that's in town right now?
And I think it's when you show movies with people who are stuck in a rut or bored or trapped in a loop. There's always a danger where it's like you could show that, but that is by its nature kind of boring.
Exactly, and you don't make it interesting. I think a movie that pulls it off really well is Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette. I think that's a movie that really keeps it interesting, but like shows the mundanity. But yeah, you always run that risk of, you're telling a story about people mundane, but that's a mundane thing to show.
Yes.
And I think Scorsese, he's doing something really interesting, I think, visually with that. In terms of people always seem to be trapped by stuff in this movie. In every sort of shot, there's pictures on the wall, there's a couch over here, there's a chair, there's a fireplace, there's a sculpture of a dog, and they're all kind of framed by it. And I think that visually is a much more compelling way to show it than kind of having the plot sort of do that over and over again. There's a really great scene when they're eating dinner of many scenes where they eat dinner.
Thank you.
But every shot is framed by the same candles.
Yes.
And everybody's in between the candles, and it's cut so that the candles are in the same position in each frame. And that's a really interesting way to show these people are just really stuck in this rut of tradition. But then the plot's kind of then the dialogue's kind of piling on that too, and then it's just mundane on mundane, and it's the visual aspect is way more interesting than the story, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about the style. And I that scene that you're talking about is in the beginning where it's him and his parents talking, Winona Ryder, right, having dinner. Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's actually interesting because they say it's hard to shoot multiple people having dinner, but it's kind of cool where they're just all talking to each other and the camera is just in the middle of the table facing them.
Yep.
So he'll look to his right and then she'll be looking to hit her left, so it tracks correctly. But you're just always just looking straight down the barrel at them. And I think that on a technical level, it's just a really interesting way to shoot that. Mm-hmm. And then what you're saying, where you frame it with the
it's always two
candles, then it that's like the artistry of that. So like the technicalness and the artistry, it's well done.
Yeah.
I love that scene where he's reading her letter and the lights dim down and you get the slash across his face of light.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Really cool, like opera style evocative effects. It's like you kind of want the movie to go a little more over the edge with that. You want it to go a little more crazy with that stylistic stuff, and he really holds back.
Yeah. Also, Emily, when we turn this movie on, she's like, early prediction: Winona Ryder kills herself, and it didn't happen. In some ways,
but a staple of these kind of stories.
Of course,
somebody's putting rocks in their pocket and walking in the river.
Listen, that was not an ill-informed assumption. That was from years of practice.
Has she read Age of Innocence before?
She has not.
Okay.
So I think that in some ways that makes that character more interesting. I think in other ways it makes the movie more boring.
Sure.
Someone needed to die. And he said it was his most violent movie. And God damn it, I don't know what we're talking about violence-wise, but I did not see that.
I think he's talking emotional violence.
I don't see that either.
I think it's really subtle. And I think, as I kind of think back on certain things, especially what Daniel Day-Lewis is doing, I think if you watch it again, you'd see a lot more. In terms of just, like, when he's trying to, like, fast-track his marriage, but then she kind of pulls back on that. He thought this is everything she wanted, and like his face kind of does a thing, and he keeps his composure, but it's like you can tell just under the surface he's like, what the fuck? And you kind of want that a little more, you know. But yeah, I think it's such a subtle, dry thing that maybe those little kernels are there, but maybe they're not, and I don't know if I want to revisit it to find out.
I think that maybe. I think there's a lot of Catholic guilt in that character, and as someone who was raised Catholic, I think I just get that. So it's not like anything new, and maybe to someone who is like raised differently, it'd be like, oh, interesting. You know, he's so embridled to these principles that don't really apply to him or don't really make sense to him, but he feels like yes or whatever. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like, yeah, I get that. That's not interesting. That's how I interpreted it, but I don't know. I feel like his character was not sympathetic at all.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's not so much sympathetic. Nobody's relatable here. I'm not a high society New York lawyer, and he doesn't have any mid-level friends. Everybody is just this sort of stuffy, kind of Pomeranian-induced person.
Those Pomeranians, though, man.
Well trained for Pomeranians, for movie dogs.
I think that if anyone put any effort into training a dog, you could get it to just
You
fucking
do it.
be mellow.
So,
but
yeah. But there's nobody to kind of contrast that. I know Michelle Pfeiffer is supposed to kind of be that character, but she's like she's a countess, for God. She's not low society. We need to kind of see that other side, or get somebody in there who maybe came from that. But like everybody is just in this haughty, stuffy, foo era.
I think you're right. I think on some level, though, Winona Ryder's character is smarter than you would think that a character like that would be in that role, which I think is refreshing and interesting. How she's like, well, why do you want to rush the marriage? And he's like, darling. And she's like, I think you have another, like, blah, blah. And she guesses it, like, and she's like, right on, you know what I mean? And then later at the end, they reveal that she always knew, and, you know, she was proud of him and whatever, and he never knew that. Yeah. That's cool. But then, and then with What's-Her-Face's character, Michelle Pfeiffer, it's like, she's kind of the voiceover is like, oh, she was such a wild woman. And it's like, she's not wild at all. They just hate her because her marriage failed, and that culture hates women. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're a victim of this man, so that's your fault. Yeah. And it's like, she doesn't do anything weird. She's not like, the thing is, there was no, like, if she was like truly a free spirit, if she was like, you know, on the fucking estate, she's like skinny dipping or something, anything, just to, you know, like, she's like, you know, anything that she would have a modern sensibility that would just connect us to her. But she's really of her time. Yeah. And as is everyone, and that's exactly what you were saying, you know?
Yeah, it's just, you know, to them, crazy. Yeah, she doesn't love a guy anymore and doesn't want to be with him anymore. That part's fine, but you want to get divorced? Scandalous. This arbitrary title we've put on an action. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Terrifying.
And like, listen,
look, skinny dip in the fountain, for God's sake.
Yeah, fucking
go to the opium den.
Yeah,
do something.
Yeah, smoke some crack.
There were opium dens.
Yeah, come on. You know, get a prostitute, be bisexual, something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Be scandalous in a way. Although I guess at that time, women could practice on each other, and that wasn't weird. Okay. We live in a weird world where it's like, why that used to be normal, and then somewhere we dropped it. Come on. So, yeah, I just think that you're right. I think there's just no one to cheer for and nothing to really grasp to, and nothing really happens in this movie. I mean, things happen, but nothing really happens.
2 hours and 20 minutes worth of stuff doesn't happen. I can guarantee you that.
Yep. That's a guarantee. Yeah, I just think that there's some good characters here and there's some good stuff, but it's just at the end of the day, and you know, whatever, maybe they're sticking to the source material, but this movie is a testament to why people change the source material. Yes. Because it's like, your name's going on it, bro, and it's not good.
It's just... That's why I say I don't feel like his heart's in it. He's doing all the... There's certain Scorsese touches to it that we see. It's, you know, it's clearly well shot. I think the editing, camera work, all that, production design, it's all tip-top. It's great. But that story is just not quite jiving with that aesthetic at all, though. It just, you know, your favorite line, somebody throw a pie, for fuck's sake. Somebody pop a firecracker, somebody get naked, somebody, like, and I'm not saying that from a boorish point of view, I'm just saying...
Something. Anything.
People always say, oh, people just want more. I want something. Yeah. Like, just give me something.
And at this point, dude, have him be naked. Just something.
Give me a little DDL butt. Just fine. Give it to me.
Yeah, it's just...
It's a movie that just kind of sits there and it's pleasant and it's nice. And I understand why and the themes of the story, what they're trying to do, but I just don't find that to be the most interesting way to tell it. And it's too much of a hammering home the mundaneness when you could have done it one way, and I think the best way is the visual way. Mm-hmm. Of showing people just trapped under stuff. Like, that's a great aesthetic, and that's an interesting story, but the text and the characters don't really push that along.
Let's I'm completely with you. I think we agree with it. And it's not we're complaining about it. It's boring, but it's boring in the way that you would just turn it off and forget about it. It's not offensively stupid. It's just what you just said. You're looking for something and there's just nothing. So, but let's get into some nitpicks here before we get into some cool stuff and then some questions. Opera, I just don't get opera, bro. I just don't get opera.
I don't get how anybody gets opera. It's like,
I mean, I guess if you speak Italian, then you can at least understand it.
Yeah, or you've done all this research about it beforehand, but yeah, I just don't. Seeing people kind of warble in really fake looking costumes for 3 or 4 hours just does not seem pleasant.
In Casino, we talked about how it had a 90s film aesthetic to it.
Yep.
This movie does too, and it's very oppressive.
Yeah, to its detriment.
Yeah, it just feels the lighting in the film style is just very like whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I'd be interested to see the Blu-ray restoration. If they did a restoration on it, maybe it would look better than this transfer.
This transfer is not good. It's a little muddy, which is a shame.
And I was gonna talk about this in our first half, but I want to save it for the second half. It's like if I owned any Scorsese, material, I would definitely be like, one from the master, Scorsese's Age of Innocence. And I still think that in a shrewd business way, they should definitely do that. But it's weird that this
is just not readily available. It's one of the great filmmakers of America, and
but I get that this would be a hard movie to market though, because it's like. It's not like it's steamy, and that's the thing I wanted. I wanted it to be steamy.
It's not steamy.
It's not steamy, and it's the name of it doesn't really fit what we see. The Age of Innocence, like I don't know. I feel like Age of Innocence is a very nostalgic kind of a title, but it's not really a nostalgic kind of a movie.
No, it's all about breaking down that nostalgia, but it doesn't really do it in an interesting way.
Yeah.
It's a tough nut to crack. It should be great. Mm-hmm. It should tell. But is the flaw in the source material? Is it in the telling of the source material? I don't know, and I don't feel the need to really investigate further is the problem.
Yeah.
It has inspired me to I wonder if the book did this, this, and this. It's like, I don't want to read that book.
Yeah, it's not evocative.
No.
It really isn't. On the cool side, the costuming and all of that is very, very well done.
Yes.
That Scorsese is consistent with his material where it's always... If it's the 70s, goddamn it, it's the 70s. If it's the 90s, goddamn it, it's the 90s.
If it's the 70s, it's the 70s, 1870s.
Yes. and it does feel like they did not spare any expense. You never look at the fucking carriage and think like, oh my god, what a bobo looking prop. It all looks real. Mm-hmm. And that is, important. It is. Also, Michelle Pfeiffer is great. And like, where have you been, Michelle Pfeiffer, in Stardust? She was in Stardust.
Yes. And she was great in that. Come on, Michelle. You can have a steadier career. Get out of here. Get in here.
She does. She still works, but
she was never at like Dangerous Minds level.
Yeah, she's definitely done less in now. But if you look at her IMDb, she is doing stuff. You know what I mean? She's not like she's not doing things. You know what I mean?
It's good, but I mean she could still be a star.
She could be in the pictures.
Star. You want to be in the pictures, kid? I will say I really do like the ending scene.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
I like the ending. Because I think that's probably, if Scorsese's talking about emotional violence, that's probably the most emotionally violent moment. But it's all understated. Of like this woman that he thought he loved and was going to give away his whole life for.
He did love her, but he didn't give away his whole life.
Yeah. He did love her and thought about doing it, but did not do it. Lived this whole life with another woman, and then he just doesn't take the chance to even reconcile with her. That's kind of that's a heavy burden, Because there's people like that in my life. You just want to kind of have that closing moment, and you'll never get it, whether either they passed on or you just lose contact with them or something like that. You just don't get that moment.
But how many of them do you want to be like, hey, Steve, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you?
Some are like that, but it is a burden to carry, and you never get that moment to do it. This guy gets the moment, and he doesn't take it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting, though.
It feels dumb, though. Like, because there's the great revelation that his son is like, oh, mom knew, but, you know, she just never said anything. That's a great revelation. But then it's like, does he want to punish himself? Is he full of nostalgia and doesn't want to risk ruining that? Does he like the idea of her being young? Like, I just think that it's not like the movie builds up to this moment and then in that moment you can decide for yourself. I feel like the movie merely plotlessly goes along.
Yeah.
And then you have this moment and then it's up to you to decide what's going on, but it's really arbitrary. Because to me, I don't like that guy, so I'm like, because he's a fucking idiot. That's why he doesn't do it. He's a fucking motherfucking mook.
You motherfucker. You motherfucker. He's Charlie M.
Yeah. Charlie M.
But yeah, it's interesting how it's paced and how it's put together. And yeah, for me, it's like, that was sort of the one part I can relate to a little bit. But that was the only window I got, and then the credits roll, you know. And is the whole thing worth it before that? No, not really.
Nope.
No.
Kev, you hated this movie.
I didn't hate it.
You hated it.
Did not hate it. Not with the boiling hate that I like hate Suicide Squad. Or something like that. I'm frustrated at its potential and how it doesn't fulfill that.
And I think on that note, I think
knowing the talent behind it.
And it's like, I feel like Michelle Pfeiffer's character, she has sympathy for me, and so does everyone else. But Daniel Day-Lewis's character, I think you're just constantly frustrated with him in a way that is not satisfying at all. Yep. He's not Spider-Man learning that, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. He's just like, you're just a rich fucking asshole. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he is. And yeah, it inspires indifference.
Do you think this movie kind of outs Marty for being kind of indulgent?
Sure.
Because it's a long movie because, like, listen, this one puts Casino and Goodfellas and all those other movies into context. Because while in some of those movies they're rambling, at least, like, stuff's happening. They're explaining things to you.
Tiki bars are burning down.
Yeah.
People are getting blowjobs.
Something, you know what I mean?
The Rolling Stones are playing somewhere.
But this is just indulgence for the sake of indulgence.
Yeah, it's just kind of there, and it sort of lurches along like a bum wheel, you know.
I feel like, and also I feel like other movies inspire conversations. I mean, in our Casino episode, we talked about Vegas for like 20 minutes, you know, in the beginning and in the second half. And this episode, we're running real short here, and I just feel like that's okay because the thing I think we said it before. The thing that this movie is what it's not, and what it's not is evocative. Yeah. There's no conversation to have. It's just plainly dry, and it's like, move on. This is a truly forgettable movie.
There's no favorite quotes. There's no this or that. There's no horribly memorable
There's a memorable
scenes.
Dog.
there's a dumb Pomeranian.
There's a blonde Pomeranian that's kind of a cute little dumbass. That's it.
And that's kind of all it's got.
You know, I feel like in other movies of Regency kind of things, it's like, you know, you could talk about like, oh, how they did medical stuff, how they taught her. It's like even the scene where she's doing archery. It's like there's nothing to say.
And like, what a strange party of like, oh, let's watch someone archery. And
was it a competition? I don't even know.
She was just by herself. She's just like, let's watch her practice shooting.
Although I will say her dress with the leather like holster and the leather did look pretty badass.
It's a good look. Good job, Whitney.
It makes me think that an 1870s zombie movie could be pretty sweet.
Could have been.
Throw a pie!
Somebody throw a pie.
Someone run around a fucking New York Palace nude. I don't know.
See, I would say this is a good example of no matter how much you love a filmmaker, no matter how much you respect their work, they're not all going to be winners.
Nope.
You know, it's...
So no matter how much you love and respect a director, there doesn't mean that there's no such thing as genius. There's only moments of genius. There's only the ability to achieve genius.
Yes.
Genius is not something that you just carry around in your fucking wallet, waiting to cash it in, right? And I think that this is just a movie that just doesn't add up to much.
Yep. I mean, this is not the first Scorsese movie I haven't liked. I despise Hugo. I think that movie's terrible.
Apparently, the through line with that is PG-13 or PG, not for Kev.
Not for... That's not true.
With Scorsese. His 2 PG movies are the ones you hate the most.
Yeah, it's true. So
I'm just saying,
everything else is alright.
I'm not saying that's. I'm not saying.
There's a small pool to pull from.
Sure, I'm not saying. I'm not saying that there's enough of a sample pool there, but it does have early signs of a trend.
All right.
Put people's heads in vices.
That'll get me in the pictures.
Do you like this movie and does it work?
I don't hate it, but yeah, I would never watch it again or take the time. If the subtleties are there like I think they are, I'm not the least bit inspired to find them or get anything else out of it. So
The answer is just no. It's a movie I feel like one of the things that we see in Scorsese is that I feel like his movies are a love letter to a thing. I think that
sure.
I think Raging Bull is a love letter just to bad behavior. I think this movie is a love letter to quiet desperation, but it does not. It does accomplish that somewhat, but not in a way that we can really talk about. You know what I mean? Not in a way. It's just like, okay, quiet desperation. I see it. It doesn't mean anything though.
It's like Meatwad in Aqua Teen Hunger Force. He's like, I get it. I'm not laughing, but I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So here's what I want to have fun with. Is there a sequel pitch or a fan theory or a remake idea that you would want to do?
I said a remake idea. We're in the 1870s. Somebody's got to go to an asylum, right? Let somebody go crazy, or just let something happen. You know, it's what if
Ghost Story, demons, something like that.
But we got the Ghost Story hottie totty New York movie. It was called Crimson Peak.
Ooh.
It was great.
Yeah.
That took place in New York, right? Does now.
Sure. It's been decided. You're saying?
I want to. Have you ever heard of a story? It's called Murat Sade.
No.
So it's about the Marquis de Sade, and I think it's Murat. I could have it wrong, but it's another like philosopher, and they stage a play in an asylum. I want to see that kind of story, but the crazies portraying the Age of Innocence, and see like people who are intrinsically insane trying to like show a reflection of supposed normal traditional society. I think you got an interesting story there. Because then you can really comment on the mundanity of what's perceived as normal. So I think that you can do something there with that.
Interesting. I would do... So apparently, as the story goes, Mary Shelley and her husband had a 3-way relationship with her stepsister. Right?
Wow. What a bomb to drop.
Yes. And
that's what this movie needs.
Because that dude believed...
Hey, your stepsister swing?
That's the thing. They believed in free love, apparently, right? Cool. So imagine, so it's Age of Innocence. What a great title for this, right? So it's about a guy and a girl, and they all fall in love together. And we could talk about the sexual politics of the era, right? Where women who have to be chaste or whatever, but then you have to be chaste and proper and all this stuff, but you also have to be able to satisfy your man because you're subservient to him because you're basically bought and sold still, right?
Yep.
So there was a practice of like, oh, women can get together and practice on each other, which was thought to be just like young girls figuring it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that vein, what if those two girls liked each other and then they both liked that dude, or one of them liked the dude, and the dude's like, free love, I'm all about it. And then the movie was just about them navigating society and, you know, the controversies. What if one of them was a writer named Barry Shelby and they wrote a horror book?
Lived on 123 Fake Street.
Yeah. So, I just think that that would be a more memorable, interesting idea.
There's a good movie in there somewhere.
And it's like, there's an interesting idea. Like, it's like women dressed properly, completely covered up, layers and layers, layers. You show your ankle, that's weird, right? But art has nudity. And it wouldn't be weird if you were on your estate around your friends and families to go skinny dipping, right? They have bathing suits. So there's an interesting dichotomy to the function of how this high society works versus how life actually works. Where it's like, we're all young and free, right? Let's go swimming. You know, like, we're rich, bitch. You know what I mean? Also, isn't my friend hot? Don't you think so?
Yep. Yeah, I'd see that movie. Shit.
Thanks, Kev.
Give it to me.
So yeah, I don't know. On the Scorsese meter, this is easily forgettable.
Very forgettable.
But also should be remembered to put everyone in their place. Like, he's not fucking God's gift to filmmaking. Like, everyone can, and that's okay.
Anyone can stumble.
Anyone can stumble. And that's the thing, like, Tarantino's Stumble was a movie that burnt up My Best Friend's Wedding.
What?
My Best Friend's Birthday. He was making a movie piecemeal called My Best Friend's Birthday. It was a comedy.
Okay.
They were shooting it on the weekends. And then someone's like garage caught on fire and burned the negative.
Oh, no.
And he was like...
I never heard about that.
He's like, I think he said in an interview, he's like it didn't matter because that movie was just me learning how to like make a movie, and it was no good, so it's not really a big loss.
Yeah, there's an interesting story about that. Green Day were making an album, and the masters got stolen. And they said, oh shit, we have to record them again. And their producer sat him down, and he's like, is that worth doing all over again? Do you think that's the best stuff of your career? What... is that what you really want, or can we try something else? And then they made American Idiot.
Oh, interesting.
Which, like, shot off their career into the stratosphere. It's
Although,
like,
who the fuck steals masters?
I don't know. Somebody stole.
I mean, like, if you steal it, isn't that like a ransom scenario?
You'd think. What if it's like, yeah, I'm going to ransom your new album, Green Day, but they're like, but that one, it wasn't our best stuff. And then they make their, like, multi-platinum hit. It's like, fuck. I just have a shitty Green Day album.
If that's the that would be a good movie too, right? So people recording the album, first act break, the album gets stolen, then it's a fallout from that, and how it affects everyone's lives and stuff, and then they're about to pay up, and they have to get all the money together, and they're going to go into debt to get this album back, but and the producer sits them down, and that's the climax is like they get ripped off, and the producer's like, listen, we could re-record this, we could buy it back, but at the end of the day, is that the shit that you want to say? You know what I mean?
Yep. It's a good scene in Walk the Line, too. It's like that. So, Johnny Cash recording.
Stolen. So I just think that this, and also I think we talked about this with Casino, but I just think that his mob movies are memorable because you're really diving into that subculture, and I think this movie could have been that, and what I just pitched would be that,
Sure.
but it wasn't that, and I think that's why his mafia stuff gets remembered, because he's giving you all of his information of this secret world, and I think that's just intrinsically interesting.
Absolutely. And even Gangs New York, he creates a whole different world. It's not necessarily a mafia world, but by God, you remember it, and you go down into it, and you get lost in it in a good way. This you kind of just sort of half follow in a not so good way.
Someone put their watch on a pole, for fuck's sake.
But yeah, I think, and that's sort of what I want to accomplish a bit with these director buffets, looking at a body of work, is saying that it's not always going to be the best thing on the planet. Sometimes a guy's going to make just it's a pretty good movie, or it's not so good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe an outright stinker, but the great filmmaker. But they could just make it just a fucking bomb that's terrible. And that's, the breadth of somebody's career, it's like, that's gonna happen. They're not all gonna be just absolutely these beautiful, amazing things.
And that's the thing, is I think sometimes we,
and
oh, good.
they get put on that pedestal, like, oh, they can do no wrong. It's like, that's where they really learn their shit, and where they truly make something great is when they tried something and it failed. Then they can either retreat back to their roots, which usually doesn't really pay off, or they realize, I can go somewhere else, but I've learned the lessons from this, and I know what I did wrong.
Right. And the next movie after this one was fucking Casino, right?
He made Casino next.
Back to the hits.
But he made a good hit.
Right.
He was able to replicate, and then he continued to make great films.
Right. So on that note, I think that a lot of times, I think the common film criticism is that the auteur theory is not being upheld, right? The studio interfered. The studio fucked this movie up. And oftentimes it's very true. There's no denying it, right? It can totally happen. It does happen. But this movie, and listen, I'm not for sure on this because we don't know the details, but it feels like nothing was cut from this movie. It does not feel like groupthink.
Nope.
That's how it doesn't feel. Maybe it was. Doesn't feel that way.
Nobody's come out and said, oh yeah, the producer had his own cut, or his goons were on set telling Scorsese what to do. It's
right.
Like, this feels like the movie they wanted to make.
Right. And it shows you how that is not always the answer, right? If a studio note was like, Marty, let's just make this rated R and have it be a little sexy, might have helped the movie, and no, that might not be what Marty wanted to do, might have helped the movie be a better product, a better thing.
Sure.
So I feel like we've talked about this movie as much as anyone really can, and
Did our dad. You know what?
we did what we said we were gonna do.
Indeed.
So this episode, written by Kev, music by Jeff Russell. I'm Mr. Jibber Jabber. That's Kev. We'll see you at the next 17-course dinner party. Bring your friends.
Hopefully they're like sexy, free-spirited friends.
Yeah. Hopefully.
They swing.